Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Vance Taylor, and I serve as the Chief of the Office of Access and Functional Needs at the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, CalOES. On behalf of the symposium organizing team, I'm thrilled to welcome you to the 2023 National Access and Functional Needs Symposium. This is actually the second year that we've put on the symposium. And I'm delighted to report that as of this morning, we had over 2,600 people registered to tune in. So this year's event has even more participants than we did last year. But before we kick things off, Sadie Martinez, who, along with being one of the symposium organizers, is also the Access and Functional Needs Coordinator at the Colorado Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. It's going to provide an overview of the accessibility features that are available throughout the event. Sadie?
Hello all, thank you for joining us all. Before we get started, we're actually going to start with a language inclusion and justice statement. So I'm going to ask our Spanish interpreters to please unmute and go ahead and get us kicked off before we do our inclusive meetings practices.
Thank you, Sadie. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, but depending on where you are. My name is Maria Elisa Fuller, and I'm here with my colleague, Valentina. We are part of an amazing group of individuals. We come from representing the Community Language Co-op. The mission is to generate a pragmatic attitude towards diversity. We focus our efforts in creating spaces that are safe for all individuals, and we continue to rally for language justice. We're very committed to creating spaces that allow each individual the right to express themselves in the language of their heart. By doing so, we're very confident to be part of conversations whose outcomes can benefit all the participants. For today, we are going to be using simultaneously interpretation to create this space. So when I finish saying this in Spanish, we are going to turn on interpretation, and you will see a globe icon in the bottom of the screen that says interpretation. So we're going to ask you to please select the channel that you prefer. If you're bilingual, feel free to listen to everybody in their own language, so you don't have to select a channel. Buenos días, buenas tardes con todos. Mi nombre es María Elisa Fuller. Estoy aquí con mi colega Valentina. Somos parte del Community Language Co-op, un grupo muy comprometido de individuos cuya misión es generar una actitud pragmática hacia la diversidad. Centramos nuestros esfuerzos en crear espacios seguros para todas las personas, mientras continuamos movilizándonos a favor de la justicia lingüística. Estamos comprometidos en crear espacios que permitan a cada individuo la oportunidad de comunicarse en el lenguaje de su corazón. Al hacerlo, pues confiamos ser testigos de conversaciones que sean beneficiosos para todos los participantes en las diferentes reuniones. Para el día de hoy utilizaremos la interpretación simultánea para crear este espacio. Cuando yo termine de anunciar esto en español, vamos a activar la interpretación y usted verá un icono de globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de su pantalla que dice interpretación. Si usted es totalmente bilingüe, puede escuchar a todos en su idioma. Si no lo es, le pedimos que por favor escoja el canal de su preferencia, sea este inglés o español. Lo que quería recordarles, por favor, a quienes van a estar presentando es que mantengan un ritmo cómodo, como de conversación, para permitirnos a Valentina, a mí y a los otros intérpretes hacer una mejor servicio. I just wanted to remind you, for those who are going to be presenting today, to please keep a comfortable rhythm while you speak to allow us interpreters to do a better job. That is all I have. Sadie, es todo lo que tengo. We are ready to start. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving us our language inclusion statement. We all strive to ensure inclusive, accessible meetings that enable all individuals to engage fully. Practicing inclusion is worth the time it may take, even if it delays other objectives. Understand that everyone exists in spaces in different ways, and how someone can best engage and listen might look different than how you do. For those of you who might benefit from captioning, please turn on and enable the CC icon at the bottom of your screen, or follow the live stream link that is in the chat for the transcript. American Sign Language interpreters are available throughout the symposium, and you could spotlight or pin the interpreters. We also have it where you could select the language at the bottom, where you could select your ASL interpreter as well. And for those of you who might have questions, please put them in the Q&A box, or as an alternative format, please email them to oafn@caloes.ca.gov. So we could try to answer all of the questions. Identify who you were referring your question to, and feel free to use the email in case you have something we did not cover in this discussion. Thank you. We want you to walk away with something from the symposium that you can use in your work of whole community inclusion and emergency management. It may start with practicing inclusive meeting practices. And for more information, I will drop into the chat a link for more inclusive meeting practices. Please feel free to take breaks as you need them. There are no scheduled breaks. With that, back to you, Vance.
All right, Sadie, thank you very much. And thank you to our ASL and our Spanish language interpreters. So over the course of the next 2 days, we're going to hear about real life practices and initiatives that emergency managers, government agencies, local jurisdictions, community-based organizations, and whole community stakeholders are using to integrate the needs of all individuals before, during, and after disasters. The goal of this symposium is to provide a forum that exclusively focuses on various aspects related to the integration of access and functional needs within emergency management. The stories and discussions that are shared in the next 2 days should serve as a guide for all jurisdictions throughout the country, and we've got some international participants as well, to advance the mission of integration. I want to say, making the symposium a reality is a monumental lift. And so it's important that we take just a moment to recognize our organizers. At Cal OES, I could not be more proud to work at an agency that is so deeply rooted in the principles of integration and inclusion. That our leadership, from Governor Newsom to our director, Nancy Ward, I'm empowered California to become a real leader in this space. The Colorado Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Recognizing the need to further integration and inclusion, Colorado took a huge leap forward, then brought on Sadie Martinez to lead their efforts as their AFN coordinator. Her support and partnership organizing the event have been invaluable. New York University, they're committed to improving the safety, independence, and security of all students. And to do that at a whole new level, they brought on the innovative Anne-Marie McLaughlin as their Director of Emergency Management and Continuity. And her contributions to the symposium, including letting us use NYU's Zoom platform, have been tremendous. And the International Association of Emergency Managers. Working with their team has been wonderful. John Osborne, Raid Tesfagi, Tim Mann, they've been wizards at building the registration platforms, developing the online tools, and creating marketing materials that have helped giving this symposium life. And I want to recognize our sponsors. The American Red Cross, thank you for being a champion for the whole community. And Big City Emergency Managers. Ron Prater and his team are changing emergency management one big city at a time. Thank you for your efforts and for your sponsorship. I also want to thank panelists, moderators, and speakers. And certainly, not least of all, I want to thank you, the participants. There's a lot of places you could be right now, and you're choosing to be here. So thank you for that. Now, our keynote speaker this morning was scheduled to be Director Nancy Ward from Cal OES. Unfortunately, Director Ward's under the weather today and is unable to join us, but we're going to wish her a speedy recovery. I will take a moment of personal privilege to say that having worked closely with her and seen her commitment to inclusion and integration, Director Ward's a champion for our whole community. And I could not be more proud to work with her on this mission. Fortunately for us, she's arranged to have the Chief Deputy Director of Cal OES, Lisa Mongett, fill in for her. Governor Newsom appointed Lisa Mongett to serve as Chief Deputy Director at Cal OES in September 2020. And since joining the agency, she's led efforts to design and execute several initiatives focused on strengthening California's resiliency. I will say she's also responsible for the establishment of the first ever Cal OES Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. She's also the reason why we have a permanent team of emergency managers dedicated to support our California State Operations Center and new inclusive programs designed to aid the recovery of communities impacted by disasters. She has decades of distinguished experience in public service and got here just in the nick of time to help us with COVID, record snowfall, record rain, record flooding, and the aftermath of some very large earthquakes. So I think all she's waiting for now are locusts. Her professional and personal commitment to inclusion and integration speaks directly to California's commitment to this issue. With that, I have the great privilege of turning it over to Chief Deputy Director Lisa Mongett. Lisa.
Thank you, Vance. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Mongett, Chief Deputy Director here at the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. We also serve as the Homeland Security Advisor to the Governor, Governor Gavin Newsom, and I'm honored to be with you here today. Director Ward would be very grumpy with me if I didn't pass on her disappointment, because she's very passionate about the work that you do. Since being appointed at the beginning of this year, and watching her in action with regard to the storms, the floods, and all of the events and challenges that we've been faced. First and foremost, she wants to put people first, and she always challenges the team to think about whether we're really leaning in through our partnerships and collectively thinking about the people that we're striving to serve. Vance's introduction and the comment about locusts reminded me of a family gathering that we had a couple of weekends ago, and my little niece, who was in elementary school, was asking me to describe what I do and what is emergency management in the state of California. And my 22-year-old daughter tried to describe it that, look, if there was a zombie apocalypse, we would be at the forefront of coordinating and planning the state's efforts. And that made the light bulb go off for my niece. So that Vance's comment about locusts kind of reminded me of that. First, I'd like to echo all of Vance's comments about all of the collective work that you did to make this happen. Having worked behind the scenes to make these types of events happen, I absolutely know all of the work that it takes to make it look seamless and easy. And thanks to all of you for showing up. As Chief Deputy Director, I'm honored to be a leader in an agency where the principles of equity, inclusion, and social justice are very much at the core of our work. And this month, we recognize the 33rd anniversary of the enactment of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, I was born in 1969, and it always amazes me that I was 21 years old before the federal law would recognize and prohibit the discrimination against individuals with disabilities in all areas of life. And as we will end up recognizing that very important milestone this month, it's also imperative for all of us to acknowledge that there's a lot more work to be done. And I know that you recognize that, or you wouldn't all be here today. You're doing your part by sharing your dedication, enthusiasm, and commitment that diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility are central to our core values in the profession of emergency management. In California, we work hard to be the national leader in this space, but we don't do it alone, as you can see by the convening here today. It requires the commitment of our governor, of dedicated statewide leadership, partner agencies, and an active, dedicated stakeholder group. Now let's talk about California. Brief. We're big. We're nearing 40 million people in the state of California. We're one of the most diverse in this nation. We're the fourth largest economy in the world. And on the landscape disaster, simply put, we have entered a new chapter of emergency management. Our disasters are more frequent. They're on a larger scale. They're complex, and they're longer lasting. Emergencies and disasters, they involve multiple counties and regions of the state, and the recoveries for our communities are so much more challenging, and they're taking much longer time. Over the past 5 years, the state has experienced an unprecedented number of disasters, including severe drought, catastrophic wildfires, power grid outage challenges, earthquakes, intensive storms, severe flooding, and COVID-19. In fact, 15 of the most destructive fires in the past history have occurred since 2015, and 5 of the top 6 most destructive fires in the state's history occurred in August and September of 2020. California will be recovering from these disasters for the next decade while we continue to prepare, plan, and recover from future events. And something that I think all of you know with absolute certainty is that all of these disasters disproportionately impact older adults, people with disabilities, and underrepresented communities. Now more than ever, we really seek to align our efforts to support these communities. And let's take a look at some of the things that we've done in California that we're particularly proud of. And I'm hoping that across the time that we share together during this event, that we learn even more about a lot of the amazing things that you folks are doing. To address the inequities, California leaned forward and established the nation's first ever Office of Access and Functional Needs, also known as AFN, within CalOES in 2008. And having a governor-appointed chief leader that oversees this organization ensures that we've got a decision maker representing the community sitting at the table when we're designing our plans and our responses and our recovery. Vance Taylor has fulfilled that role at CalOES spectacularly since his appointment in 2015. Continuing to make progress in the state, I'm pleased to announce that Governor Newsom established the first ever Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in CalOES in 2021. Also led by a governor appointee, this newly established office furthers the work in the equity space and collaborates very closely with Vance and his team. We challenge ourselves every day to design people-focused solutions. We work with emergency managers, the whole community, private sector stakeholders to identify and integrate the needs of all Californians throughout every facet of the state's emergency management system. And at CalOES, we strive to exemplify inclusive, integrated planning and celebrating the community's motto that nothing about us without us. And we strive to be thoughtful about our emergency communications and committed to ensure everyone can receive accessible, real-time information about disasters needed to plan, prepare, respond, and recover from all hazards. We're proud of the many projects underway, and some of them include that we've created the alert and warning guidelines in 2018 to ensure emergency notifications can be sent and received with accessibility in mind. They were created using an integrated process, meaning we included representatives from the access and functional needs community, making sure that they have a voice in the process at all times. The resulting guidelines detail, include, and convey AFN-related considerations, best practices, and responsibilities that highlight and increase risk of harm that delays in alerting can have on an entire community. The guidelines call for alerts using accessible formats, multiple languages, and plain verbiage at a 4th grade level to ensure comprehension. They also stress the importance of having alerting authorities consider the needs of those individuals in the community. And we use our robust network of trusted messengers, CBOs, and nonprofits to push out these life-saving messages. We also established the first in the nation disaster response interpreter program, DRI, with our programs partners from the deaf and hard of hearing community. This program credentials American Sign Language interpreters to provide services at shelters, town halls, press conferences, and community events during emergencies, and standardizes the practice of having on-screen interpreting at all statewide press forums. At the request of our sister emergency management agencies in various parts of the country, we have worked tirelessly with them to set up programs in their areas. We also prioritize interpreter and translation services. We contract and coordinate services for foreign language interpreters, translators, and transcription throughout California before, during, and after disasters to minimize or eliminate language barriers during emergencies. One of the most significant examples of this is when in early 2021, CalOES stood up 2 of the nation's first state and federally run type 1 mass vaccination sites capable of delivering over 10,000 shots per day. These sites delivered over 800,000 vaccinations with the help of more than 15 federal, state, local, and non-governmental partners and nearly 2,700 staff. We established the sites to be physically and programmatically accessible so members of the community from all backgrounds could receive the life-saving services we were providing. And a translation tent was set up next to the vaccination areas, and whenever a constituent required translation services, assistance was requested by a radio to the tent. Once the language was identified, a representative was transported to the location and then stayed with the constituent, providing translation services until their vaccination was complete, seeing them through the entire process. We play a key role in maintaining 508 compliance and understand that the information we provide online and electronically needs to be accessible for the state's whole community. To ensure our team develops and maintains the capability to create 508 compliance projects, CalOES delivers monthly in-house training for emergency managers across the state on laws and techniques that enable effective communication of electronic information. We facilitate monthly courses, further amplifying the message and the importance of website accessibility, document conversion, and all things related to 508 compliance. Through our Office of Access and Functional Needs, we provide subject matter experts to support the effort and to make sure that there is a voice from the community at the table. We use technology to support video remote interpreting. During disasters, they're an easy to use, convenient, and on-demand American Sign Language interpreting service delivered over a live internet video connection reaching smartphones and tablets. We prioritize integrated sheltering because individuals with access or functional considerations should always feel comfortable and confident coming to our shelters. We work with partners such as the California Department of Social Services, the American Red Cross, independent living centers, local emergency managers, CBOs, and stakeholders throughout the state to ensure shelters are physically and programmatically accessible for all Californians. We integrate specialized dietary considerations, accessible portable showers, hand washing stations, and comfort stations into shelter operations. We also provide accessible cots, support individuals with assistance to address activities of daily living, and strive to ensure that folks have access to wraparound services. We established the Cal-OES statewide AFN Community Advisory Committee to further support the principle of integrated planning and inclusion. This committee is comprised of executive leaders from community-based organizations and state agencies. The committee provides subject matter expertise who assist us in identifying unmet needs, partner with us on the development of preparedness resources and innovative projects, and provide us with the key insights on upcoming and unforeseen issues impacting the communities. And we support statewide AFN leadership calls, which are so critical. During major events, Cal-OES brings community stakeholders together to participate in state AFN leadership coordination calls to discuss response and recovery efforts. American Sign Language and captioning services are also provided. Briefings often include messaging from the National Weather Service, the California Utilities Emergency Association, FEMA, the California Department of Social Services, the American Red Cross, and the Cal-OES Debris and Removal Team, CBOs, and the Cal-OES Non-Governmental Organizations and Community-Based Organizations Office, and others. This year in particular, harkening back to my earlier comments about the focus of Director Board, we established the Priority Populations Task Force. This is a new key initiative California operationalized for the first time during the December and January storms. This task force coordinates all state resources in support of individuals with disabilities, older adults, people experiencing homelessness, people with chronic conditions, and migrant communities. The task force develops and disseminates messaging to local and community partners and provides information regarding state and federal resources for priority populations. It also convenes state, local, and county government partners to provide real-time technical assistance and engage priority populations, support community planning efforts, and coordinating stakeholder requests. The goal of the task force is to ensure that no communities are left behind, fall through the cracks, and otherwise do not receive the services they require and deserve during this incredibly large scope of major disaster response and recovery. The task force also, the members traveled around the state during the event and during the recovery of the event to ensure that we put eyes ourselves on the support, or in some cases, the lack of support, and when we needed to course correct. And that allowed us to swiftly take action and change direction to better support these communities from headquarters in Sacramento. So in closing, I'd like to say that California is committed to setting the standard for whole community planning and integration of accessible communication, sheltering, and transportation. And while we are proud of our collective accomplishments, much work is left to be done. The commitment begins with leadership from the government and spreads through every state agency and every local government jurisdiction. In sharing our recent accomplishments with you, one thing is common to each initiative, and that is that government does not do it alone. And we actually do our best work when we work in tandem, side by side, in partnership with trusted messengers and the whole community. In our work as emergency managers, I often think of a proverb that my mother used to share with my sister and I when we were very young. And it's that if you want to go fast, you go alone. And if you want to go far, you go together. And I think that that philosophy captures the work that we do as emergency managers and the collective work that all of you folks do. And my sense is that you recognize that and you live by that philosophy. Otherwise, you wouldn't have joined this event. So with that, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to speak to all of you. I hope that you continue to be fearless warriors in your work, and that you find this gathering re-energizes you, because I know your work can be tiresome at times. But I hope that you know you're making a difference, that your work is meaningful, and I hope that you're re-energized. I want to thank all of the participants, most importantly, and then all of the people behind the scenes that made this work, the sponsors, Vance, you and your leadership, and the rest of the team. And I want to thank you for your interest and your work in this field, because it's truly life-saving work. And quite frankly, it's long overdue. So with that, I just want to thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Appreciate your remarks and appreciate, again, just that ongoing commitment and modeling the way. So thank you very much.